The Great Hall of the Galactic Assembly was the largest room ever built by any species in known space. Its curved walls rose high enough to hold clouds. Its floor could fit 1,000 ships. Today, it held something far more dangerous. 100 different species, all watching, all waiting, all hungry for blood that was not their own. Ambassador stood at the human delegation's podium. She was a small woman by any standard. Her black hair was tied back in a simple knot. Her dark eyes moved slowly across the rows of alien faces above her. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no faces at all, just masses of light or shadow that shifted when they spoke. All of them looked down at her like she was an insect that had wandered into their garden. Beside her sat Commander. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a face that had forgotten how to smile. His uniform was pressed and perfect, but his hands were curled into fists beneath the table. He had seen what they had done to Vega 7. He had walked through the burned homes. He had counted the small bodies. On the other side sat Doctor. She was younger than both of them, with round glasses and nervous fingers that never stopped moving. In her hands, she held a data tablet. On that tablet was every piece of evidence they had gathered over 6 terrible months. Video recordings, communication logs, DNA samples, enough proof to convict the Dominion 1,000 times over in any fair court. But this was not a fair court. Had known that before she walked in, she knew it even better now. High Arbiter called the assembly to order. He was a towering creature, nearly 3 meters tall, with silver scales that caught the light like mirrors. His species, had founded the Galactic Council 2,000 years ago. They had written its laws. They had built this hall. And they had never, not once, ruled against one of the 5 founding species. The Dominion was one of those 5. His voice filled the chamber like thunder rolling across mountains. He read the charges slowly, carefully, as if each word was precious. The Dominion accused the human colony on Vega 7 of 3 crimes. First, illegal mining operations on sacred ground. Second, destruction of religious artifacts. Third, the unprovoked massacre of a peaceful survey team. Listened without expression. Commander's fists grew. Doctor's fingers stopped moving. The representative rose to speak. His name was, and he was everything his species was known for, tall, muscular, covered in thick gray hide with small eyes that held no warmth. He spoke of the sacred mountains of Vega 7, holy ground where his ancestors had once prayed. He spoke of the innocent survey team, scientists and priests who had gone to study these sacred sites. He spoke of how the humans had attacked without warning, without mercy, killing all 47 surveyors. He did not speak of the 200 human colonists who had died first. He did not speak of the children. When finished, turned his silver eyes to the human delegation. "Ambassador," he said, "you may respond." Stood, she was so small compared to everyone else in this room, but her voice did not shake. "High Arbiter," she said, "members of the Assembly, I thank you for this opportunity to speak." She pressed a button on her podium. The air above her filled with light, a holographic display that everyone in the chamber could see. "Vega 7 has been a human colony for 40 years, she said. "We settled it when no other species wanted it. We built farms, schools, hospitals. We raised families there. They showed no interest in Vega 7 until we discovered mineral deposits beneath the northern mountains 3 years ago." She changed the display. Now it showed documents, official communications that Doctor had spent months finding. "These are internal messages," continued. "They discuss plans to claim Vega 7 as sacred ground after our mineral discovery. There is no historical record of any presence on Vega 7 before this. The sacred mountains are a lie." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Small eyes narrowed. Changed the display again. Now it showed video footage, grainy but clear. Soldiers in combat armor, not scientists or priests, moving through a human town at night. Weapons firing, buildings burning, people running, falling, dying. "This is footage from the colony's security systems," said. Her voice was steady, but something cold had entered it. The survey team was not a survey team. They were soldiers. They attacked our colony without warning. They killed 217 people, including 34 children. The youngest was 8 months old. She let the video play. The chamber was silent. Even the species with no faces seemed to lean closer, watching. Our colonists defended themselves, said. They killed the attacking force. They had every right to do so under galactic law, under any law that recognizes the right to self-defense. She turned off the display. The light faded. The chamber remained silent. We are not asking for war, said. We are not asking for revenge. We are asking for justice. We are asking this assembly to see the truth and to act on it. She sat down. Commander unclenched his fists just slightly. Doctor began breathing again. High Arbiter was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to the other founding species. The collective, beings of pure energy that glowed like angry stars. The Mel Syndicate, creatures with clicking mandibles and compound eyes. The Unity, shapeless masses that communicated through vibrations in the floor. And the Dominion, sitting in their place of honor, watching with small, cold eyes. They conferred in whispers that no translator could catch. Minutes passed. The minor species in the upper rows shifted nervously. Everyone knew what was happening. Everyone knew how this would end. Raised his staff. The chamber fell silent. The Assembly has reviewed the evidence presented by both parties, he announced. We find that there are inconsistencies in both accounts. The matter is complex and requires further investigation. His heart sank. She knew those words. Every minor species knew those words. Therefore, continued, this matter will be tabled for further review. A special committee will be formed to examine all evidence. This process is estimated to require 15 standard years. 15 years. Long enough for witnesses to die. Long enough for evidence to disappear. Long enough for humanity to be bled dry by legal fees and political pressure. Long enough for everyone to forget. The Assembly is dismissed, said. Around the chamber, species began to rise, to talk, to leave. Business as usual. Another case resolved through delay and denial. Commander leaned close to, "What do we do now?" he whispered. Watched the founding species congratulate each other. She watched smile at her with those small, cold eyes. She felt the weight of injustice settle into her bones, heavy and cold and familiar. Now, she said quietly, we learn what kind of galaxy we really live in. Doctor clutched her tablet to her chest. On it was all the evidence that had meant nothing, all the truth that had changed nothing. But she did not delete it. She saved it, and she began to look for more. Because somewhere in the data, she knew, was the pattern that would explain everything. The pattern that would show them why justice never came for the small. The pattern that would reveal the true face of the Galactic Council. She just had to find it. Commander had not slept in 3 days. His eyes burned. His hands shook when he lifted his coffee cup. But he could not stop. He would not stop. Not now. Not when they were so close. The human embassy on the council station was a small building compared to the grand halls of the founding species. It had 12 rooms, a kitchen, and a basement that officially did not exist. In that basement, surrounded by holographic displays and humming computers, and Doctor worked through the night. Ambassador had given them one order after the assembly meeting: find out why. Why did the council always rule against the small species? Why did evidence never matter? Why did justice never come? Had started with the obvious. She pulled every public record from the council's 2,000-year history, thousands of cases, millions of documents. She fed them into the embassy's computers and let the machines find patterns that human eyes might miss. What they found made forget about sleep entirely. Look at this, said. Her voice was hoarse from too much talking and not enough water. She pulled up a chart on the main display. Every species that joined the Council as a minor member in the last 200 years. There are 47 of them. Looked at the chart. 47 names. 47 species that had once celebrated their membership in the Great Galactic Council. Now look at what happened to them, said. She pressed a button. The chart changed. Colors appeared next to each name. Red for species that no longer existed. Orange for species that had been absorbed into larger empires. Yellow for species that had lost their. Green for species that still survived as independent civilizations. There was no green. Stared at the display. His tired mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. All of them, he whispered. Every single one. Nodded. Her face was pale behind her glasses. Every single one. The average time from joining the Council to destruction or absorption is 37 years. The fastest was They lasted 8 years before they simply vanished from all records. No one knows what happened to them. No one even remembers they existed. She pulled up more data. The Vel were a proud warrior species. They had a fleet of 300 ships when they joined the Council. Within 20 years, they faced constant legal challenges, trade restrictions, and border disputes with the Dominion. Their fleet shrank to 50 ships, then 30, then 10. They absorbed what was left without firing a shot. Another display. There were scientists. They developed new medicines, new technologies, new ways of growing food. They shared everything with the Council just like the treaties required. Other species took their inventions and improved them. They got nothing in return. When a plague hit there, no one helped. They asked the Council for aid. The Council formed a committee to study the request. The committee finished its report 2 years after the last died. Felt sick. He put down his coffee cup because his hands were shaking too badly to hold it. "This is not an accident," he said. "No," agreed. "It is not. Look at this." She pulled up a new set of documents. These were harder to find. They had been buried in classified archives, hidden behind layers of encryption that had spent weeks breaking. "Secret treaties," she said, "signed by the 5 founding species, never shown to any minor member." Read the words on the display. Each sentence was worse than the last. The founding species agreed to share all minor species among themselves. When a new civilization joined the Council, the founders would decide who got to absorb them. They would take turns. They would create legal problems, economic pressure, and military threats to weaken the target. They would use the Council's own rules as weapons. And when the target was weak enough, they would move in, sometimes through war, sometimes through forced treaties, sometimes through simple starvation. The method did not matter. The result was always the same. "They have been doing this for 200 years, said. "Maybe longer. The Council is not a government. It is a hunting ground, and we are the prey." Was quiet for a long time. He thought about Vega 7. He thought about the dead children. He thought about Ambassador standing alone in that great hall, presenting evidence that everyone ignored. "Humanity joined the Council 12 years ago," he said slowly. "By their schedule, we have about 25 years left." Shook her head. "Les, look at this." She pulled up one more document. This one was dated just 3 years ago, around the same time that humans discovered minerals on Vega 7. It was a message between the founding species. They were discussing humanity. They were worried. "The humans breed too fast," one message read. "They expand too quickly. They build too well. If we wait the standard time, they will be too strong to absorb." Another message. "Agreed. We must accelerate the schedule. The Vega 7 situation provides an opportunity." And finally, motion approved. Humanity will be processed within 15 years. Processed like meat through a grinder, like numbers through a machine. Read the message again and again. His exhaustion was gone now, burned away by something hotter and darker. "They planned this," he said. "The attack on Vega 7, the fake accusations, the 15-year delay. It is all part of their plan to destroy us." Yes, said, and we have less time than we thought. They are afraid of us, Commander. They are afraid of what we might become if they give us time to grow. Stood up. His legs were stiff from sitting too long, but he barely noticed. His mind was racing now, putting pieces together, seeing the whole picture for the first time. We need to tell, he said. We need to tell Earth. I already sent a message to, said. She is on her way, but Earth, she hesitated. If we send this through normal channels, the Council will intercept it. They monitor all our communications. They probably know we are down here right now. Thought about this. She was right. The Council watched everything. That was part of how they controlled the minor species. No secrets, no surprises, no resistance. But humanity had not survived ice ages, plagues, and nuclear weapons by being predictable. There is another way, said. He walked to a small panel on the wall and pressed his hand against it. The panel opened to reveal a simple black box with a single red button. What is that? Asked. Something we were never supposed to use, said. A quantum-encrypted burst transmitter, point-to-point, untraceable, unreadable by any technology the Council has. He pressed the button. A small screen lit up, asking for a destination. This message goes to Admiral Jin on Earth, said as he typed. Only Admiral Jin. He recorded a brief message, just 30 seconds. He told Jin everything. The pattern, the treaties, the schedule, the plan to destroy humanity. He ended with 5 words that would change everything. They are going to destroy us. Prepare everything. He sent the message. The black box hummed for half a second, then went silent. Somewhere across the galaxy, in a secure office on Earth, Admiral Jin would receive this message in about 6 hours. And when she knew, things would start moving very fast. The door opened behind them. Ambassador walked in. Her face was calm, but her eyes were not. She had read preliminary report. Show me everything, she said. They showed her the charts, the documents, the secret treaties, the messages about processing humanity. When they finished, was quiet for a long time. She stood in the middle of the basement, surrounded by the evidence of 200 years of murder and theft and lies. Her small hands were folded in front of her. Her dark eyes stared at nothing. Well, she said finally, now we know. What do we do? Asked. Her voice was small and scared. Turned to look at her. And for the first time since Vega 7, something like a smile crossed her face. It was not a warm smile. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had finally found the truth, even if the truth was terrible. Now, she said, we make them pay. The Galactic Assembly did not expect Ambassador to return. After their ruling on Vega 7, most species assumed the humans would do what every other minor species had done, accept defeat, go home, and slowly fade away. That was how the game was played. That was how it had always been played. But had not read those rules. Or perhaps she had read them and decided they did not apply to her. She walked into the great hall without an invitation. No one had called this session. No case was scheduled. The assembly members were present only for routine administrative matters, boring discussions about trade routes and communication standards. Half of them were not even paying attention when the small human woman marched through the main doors. High Arbiter noticed her first. His silver scales rippled with surprise and anger. Ambassador, he called out, his voice cutting through the quiet murmur of conversation. You have not been recognized. This is highly irregular. Kept walking. Commander was at her right side. Doctor walked on her left, carrying her tablet like a weapon. Behind them came 3 more human staff members, their faces hard and determined. I am aware, said. She did not slow down. I invoke Article 7 of the Assembly Charter. Any member species may address the full assembly on matters of urgent galactic importance. His eyes narrowed. Article 7 was an old rule, almost forgotten. It had been written in the early days of the council, when the founders still pretended to care about fairness. No one had used it in 300 years. "You cannot simply decide that your matter is of urgent galactic importance," said. "That determination must be made by the High Arbiter." Reached the central podium. She turned to face the curved rows of alien representatives. Every species in the room was watching now. Every eye, every sensor, every attention-gathering organ was focused on her. "Then make your determination," she said, "after you hear what I have to say." Security drones hummed at the edges of the chamber, could order them to remove her. He had that power, but removing a diplomatic representative by force was a serious action. It would raise questions, it would draw attention, and did not yet know what was planning to say. He decided to wait. That was his first mistake. "Very well," he said slowly. "You may speak, but be brief." Nodded, she pressed a button on her podium. The great holographic display above the assembly floor flickered to life. 200 years ago," she began, "a species called the joined the Galactic Council. They were a peaceful people. They had no military. They wanted only to trade and learn. Within 8 years they had vanished from all records. No one knows what happened to them." The display showed what little data remained about a few images of slender, blue-skinned beings with large eyes and gentle smiles. 150 years ago, continued, the Vel joined the council. They were warriors, proud and strong. They had 300 ships and a culture that valued honor above all else. Within 20 years they had been absorbed into the Dominion. Their ships were taken. Their culture was erased. Their children were taught to forget their own names. New images appeared. Vel warriors in ancient recordings, their faces fierce and proud. Then Vel slaves in factories, their eyes empty and dead. 100 years ago they joined the council. They were scientists and healers. They developed medicines that saved millions of lives across the galaxy. When a plague struck there, they asked the council for help. The council formed a committee. The committee delivered its report 2 years after the last died. Doctor had found images of the two. Gentle creatures with soft fur and clever hands. Images of their empty cities. Images of mass graves that no one had ever visited. Murmurs began to spread through the chamber. Minor species in the upper rows shifted nervously. They recognized these patterns. Many of them had experienced similar pressures, similar threats, similar slow strangulation. High Arbiter raised his staff. "Ambassador, these historical matters are not relevant to current proceedings. I must ask you to—" 47 species, said, cutting him off. Her voice was louder now, sharper. 47 species have joined this council as minor members in the last 200 years. Every single one has been destroyed, absorbed, or erased. Not a single one survives as an independent civilization today. She changed the display. Now it showed the chart that Doctor had made. 47 names, 47 colors, not a single green. "This is not bad luck," said. "This is not coincidence. This is a pattern, a deliberate, planned pattern of extinction." The murmurs grew louder. Somewhere in the upper rows, a representative from a small trading species called out, "How do you know this? Where is your proof?" Smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I am glad you asked." She pressed another button. The display changed again. Now it showed documents that had never been meant for public eyes, secret treaties, classified messages, encrypted communications that Doctor had spent months breaking. "These are agreements between the 5 founding species," said, "signed in secret, hidden from every minor member. They describe a system for dividing new species among the founders. They explain how to weaken targets through legal challenges, trade restrictions, and manufactured conflicts. They provide schedules for absorption and elimination." She let the assembly read. The words were clear. The meaning was impossible to deny. "The Galactic Council," said slowly, "is not a government. It is not a partnership of equals. It is a hunting ground where the strong feed on the weak, and every minor species in this room is prey. Chaos erupted. Minor species shouted in outrage. Some demanded explanations. Others called for investigations. The founding species tried to restore order, but their voices were lost in the noise. Of the Dominion rose to his feet. His gray hide was flushed with anger. "These documents are fake," he roared. "Human fabrications, the lies of a dying species trying to avoid justice." "Then explain Vega 7, Commander said. He stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Explain why your soldiers attacked a peaceful colony. Explain why you killed 200 people, including children. Explain why the Council ruled in your favor despite overwhelming evidence." "Explain," Doctor added, holding up her tablet, "why we found messages from 3 years ago discussing plans to destroy humanity within 15 years. Messages signed by all 5 founding species. Messages that call us prey to be processed." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the founding species, to with his silver scales, to with his gray hide, to the glowing and the clicking Mel and the shapeless. None of them spoke. That silence was all the confirmation anyone needed. High Arbiter slammed his staff against the floor. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. "Enough," he shouted. "This presentation is based on stolen documents and criminal hacking. The human delegation has violated 17 council laws by obtaining and displaying this material. I declare these proceedings closed. I declare the human evidence invalid. And I declare that humanity's council membership is suspended immediately, pending a full review." He turned his silver eyes to. There was hatred in them now, cold and deep. "You have made a grave mistake, Ambassador," he said. "Your species will pay for this insult." Did not look afraid. She did not look angry. She looked almost peaceful. "We expected nothing less," she said quietly. "This assembly has made its position clear. Humanity accepts your decision." She turned to her delegation. Commander stood straight. Doctor closed her tablet and held it tight. The other staff members gathered their things. Together, the human delegation began walking toward the exit. "Where are you going?" demanded. "We have not finished discussing the consequences of your actions." Paused, she turned back one last time. "Yes," she said, "you have, you just do not know it yet." She resumed walking. The great doors of the assembly hall loomed before her, 10 meters tall, carved with symbols of peace and unity that had always been lies. Behind her, the founding species watched in silence, and for the first time in 2,000 years, something cold and unfamiliar crept into their hearts. It was fear. They did not yet understand why they were afraid. They did not yet know what humanity had been hiding. They did not yet realize that the small woman walking away from them had just changed the entire galaxy. But they would learn. Very soon they would learn. No species had ever voluntarily left the Galactic Council. In 2,000 years of galactic history, it had simply never happened. Membership meant protection. Membership meant trade. Membership meant access to technology, medicine, and resources that no single species could provide alone. Leaving the Council meant giving up all of that. It meant standing alone against a hostile universe. It was unthinkable. Yet the humans walked. Ambassador led the way. Her steps were calm and measured. She did not hurry. She did not look back. Behind her, Commander and Doctor followed in silence. The other staff members came after them, their heads held high. The great doors of the assembly hall grew closer with each step. Beyond them lay the corridors of the council station. Beyond that lay the docking bays where the human ships waited. Beyond that lay the stars, cold and endless and free. High Arbiter watched them go. For a moment he could not believe what he was seeing. Then anger flooded through him, hot and sharp. "Stop," he commanded. His voice echoed through the chamber. "You cannot leave. This is not how things are done." Kept walking. Ambassador tried again. His silver scales were rippling now, a sign of extreme agitation. Let us discuss this. Perhaps we were too hasty. Perhaps there is room for compromise. The Council values humanity's contribution to galactic society. Steps did not slow. Of the Dominion rose to his feet. His small eyes were bright with fury and something else, something that looked almost like panic. "You cannot run from this," he shouted. "If you leave this hall, you leave the protection of Council law. Your colonies will be undefended. Your trade routes will be seized. Your people will be hunted across the galaxy." Commander turned his head slightly, just enough to look at, just enough to let the representative see his eyes. "We know," said, then he kept walking. The collective, beings of pure energy, pulsed with angry light. Their voice was like static electricity crackling through the air. "The humans are fools. Let them go. Without Council protection, they will be destroyed within a decade. Their worlds will burn. Their children will be slaves. And we will divide what remains among ourselves as we have always done." Some of the minor species in the upper rows heard this. They heard the casual cruelty in those words. They heard the assumption that humanity would simply be destroyed and divided, like meat at a butcher's shop. And they began to understand, truly understand, what the founding species thought of them all. Reached the great doors, she stopped. For a moment, everyone in the chamber held their breath. She turned around one final time. Her small figure stood alone against the vast expanse of the assembly hall. Behind her were the doors to freedom. Before her were the massed representatives of 100 species, watching with fear and anger and confusion. "Humanity signed 47 treaties with this council," she said. Her voice was clear and calm. It carried to every corner of the chamber. Trade agreements, non-aggression pacts, technology exchanges, resource sharing, defense commitments. 47 pieces of paper that we honored with our blood, our sweat, and our good faith. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. It was simple and black, with a single button on its surface. "We honored these treaties even when you murdered our children. We honored them even when you stole our evidence. We honored them even when you planned our destruction, because we believed that law must mean something. We believed that promises must be kept." She pressed the button. Across the galaxy, something began to happen. On every human ship, every human colony, every human station, a signal was received. A signal that had sent just now. A signal that contained one simple command. "But you have shown us what your law really means," continued. "You have shown us what your promises are worth. You have shown us that the only rule in this galaxy is power. And so, as of this moment, by authority of the United Earth Government, all treaties between humanity and the Galactic Council are terminated." She paused. The silence in the chamber was absolute. "Every obligation is void," she said. "Every agreement is dust." She turned and stepped through the great doors. Commander followed. Doctor followed. The human delegation walked out of the assembly, and the doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. For a long moment, no one moved. No one spoke. The assembly sat frozen, trying to understand what had just happened. Then the reports started coming in. A communication officer received word from the border sectors. Human ships were moving, not fleeing, moving toward space. A military commander got an emergency signal from the Vega system. Human vessels were gathering there, not the small patrol craft that the treaties had allowed. These ships were bigger, much bigger, ships that should not exist according to every treaty humanity had signed. A Mel trade coordinator noticed that human merchants across the galaxy were closing their shops, collecting their goods and heading for the nearest human port. All of them, all at once, as if they had been waiting for this moment. High Arbiter received these reports in quick succession. Each one was worse than the last. Each one painted a picture that he did not want to see. Humanity had not been following the treaty restrictions. For 12 years, They had pretended to obey. They had shown the Council small patrol ships and limited colonies and primitive technology. They had paid the required tributes and attended the required meetings and smiled the required smiles. But behind that mask they had been building, growing, preparing. Thought about the human population reports he had read. 20 billion humans when they joined the Council. The treaties limited their growth rate. The treaties restricted their expansion. But what if the reports had been lies? What if there were not 20 billion humans but 40 billion, or 60 billion, or more? What if the 4 patrol frigates that humanity had declared were just the visible tip of a much larger fleet? What if the small colonies on the human border were just the public face of a vast, hidden civilization? Felt cold, his silver scales turned pale. For 2,000 years he had played this game. He had helped destroy dozens of species. He had always won because he had always known more than his enemies. But he did not know the humans, not really. He had thought he did. He had thought they were like all the others, naive, trusting, easy to manipulate. He had been wrong. In the corridors outside the assembly hall, Ambassador walked toward the docking bay where her ship waited. Her steps were lighter now. Her shoulders had lost their tension. "Do you think they understand?" Doctor asked quietly. "Not yet," said, "but they will. In a few hours they will understand everything." "They will try to stop us," Commander said. "They will send their fleets." Nodded, "Yes, they will." "Are we ready?" Reached the airlock that led to her ship. She paused with her hand on the control panel. Through the small window, she could see the stars, countless points of light in the darkness. "We have been ready for 12 years, she said. "We have been waiting for 12 years. Every ship, every soldier, every citizen, all of them know what is at stake. All of them know what we are fighting for." She opened the airlock and stepped through. "Now," she said, "we show them what happens when you push humanity too far." The airlock closed behind her. The human ship detached from the station. Its engines flared bright blue in the darkness of space. And across the galaxy, the human fleets began to move. The Council had wanted war. They had planned for humanity's destruction. They had assumed they would win because they had always won before. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Within 6 hours, the galaxy learned what humanity had hidden. It began with the treaty declarations. Every species that joined the Council was required to report their military strength, fleet sizes, weapons technology, population numbers. This information was supposed to help the Council maintain peace and balance. In reality, it helped the founding species identify which targets were weak enough to absorb. Humanity had filed these reports faithfully for 12 years. According to the documents, Earth's entire fleet consisted of 4 patrol frigates and 2 cargo carriers. Their population was 20 billion. Their weapons technology was 2 generations behind the galactic standard. They were weak. They were harmless. They were prey. Every word had been a lie. Admiral Jin commanded the first fleet from her flagship, a massive carrier that the Council did not know existed. The ship was called the Morning Star, and it stretched 2 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was covered with weapons that human scientists had developed in secret, combining Earth technology with stolen advances from a dozen other civilizations. But the Morning Star was just the beginning. The first fleet alone contained 400 warships, destroyers with engines that could outrun anything the Council had built, cruisers with shields that could shrug off nuclear weapons, carriers that held thousands of fighter craft, each one piloted by a human who had trained their entire life for this moment. And there were 6 more fleets. Admiral Jin watched the reports come in from across human space. 2,400 warships in total, not the 4 patrol frigates the Council had been told about, not the token defense force of a weak and primitive species. A real fleet. A fleet that had been hidden in deep space construction yards for 12 years, built in secret, crewed in silence, waiting for the day when the masks would finally come off. Today was that day. Captain commanded the stealth carrier division. Her ships were smaller than the main fleet vessels, but they had one crucial advantage. They were invisible. Human scientists had cracked the secret of sensor-proof hulls 2 years after joining the Council. They had never told anyone. They had simply built a fleet of ghost ships and positioned them along every major trade route in space. Was young for a captain, just 32 years old. She had lost her parents on Vega 7. She had watched the recordings of the massacre. She had memorized the names of every child who had died. Now she sat in her command chair, watching merchant vessels drift past her invisible ships, unaware that death was watching them. "All units report ready," her first officer said. "Hold position," replied. "We wait for the Admiral's signal." The signal would come soon. Knew this. The Council would not let humanity go quietly. They would send their fleets. They would try to force the humans back into their place. And when they did, they would discover what it meant to fight a species that had nothing left to lose. Lieutenant commanded the rapid assault squadrons near space. His ships were even smaller than, but they were fast, blindingly fast. Human engineers had solved the acceleration problem that limited most species' military vessels. Fighters could go from 0 to combat speed in less than 3 seconds. They could change direction faster than any sensor system could track. Was even younger than 28 years old. He had grown up on stories of human history, of wars fought against impossible odds, of victories won through courage and sacrifice. He had always wanted to be part of something bigger than himself. Now he was. Now he commanded 300 pilots who would follow him into the heart of enemy territory without hesitation, not because they were ordered to, but because they believed in what they were fighting for. Colonel activated the deep space sensor network. This was perhaps humanity's greatest secret. For 12 years, human scientists had been sending small probes into uninhabited systems across the galaxy. Each probe was tiny, barely larger than a human fist. Each one contained advanced sensors that could detect ship movements from light years away. There were millions of these probes now. They formed a web of surveillance that covered 200 light years in every direction, could see every ship in Council space. She could track their movements in real time. She could predict where they would be hours before they arrived. The Council had always won because they had better information than their enemies. They knew where the weak points were. They knew when to strike. Now humanity knew more than they did. Watched her displays light up with activity. The founding species were mobilizing. Warships were gathering at their border stations. Energy vessels were powering up their weapons. Mel carriers were launching fighters. They were doing something strange with gravitational waves that sensors could not quite interpret. "They're coming," she reported to Admiral Jin. "All 5 founding species. Estimated combined fleet strength, 3,200 vessels." Jin nodded. The founders had more ships than humanity. They had been building fleets for 2,000 years, but numbers were not everything. "Send the data to all fleet commanders," Jin ordered, "and contact the minor species." This was the part of the plan that Jin was most uncertain about. Humanity could fight the founders alone. They might even win, but the cost would be terrible. Millions of humans would die. Worlds would burn. The victory, if it came, would be hollow. But if the minor species joined them? Jin's communications officer began transmitting. The signal went out to every minor species in the Council, the traders and farmers and scientists who had watched their kind be destroyed for 200 years. The message was simple. The founding species have controlled this galaxy through fear and lies. Today, humanity is standing against them. We ask only this: do not help them. Do not fight for your oppressors, and if you have the courage, stand with us. The responses came slowly at first, then faster, then in a flood. The trading consortium declared neutrality. They would not send ships against humanity. They would not send ships for the founders either. The scientific collective went further. They would share their sensor data with human forces. They would help track enemy movements. The Sira warrior clan surprised everyone. They had been conquered by the 3 generations ago. They had served as shock troops in a dozen wars, but they had never forgotten what they once were. "We stand with humanity," their leader declared. "Let the remember the Sira." More declarations came. Minor species across the galaxy were rising up. Some merely refused to help the founders. Others actively joined humanity's cause. Ships that had been building weapons in secret for decades finally revealed themselves. Soldiers who had been waiting for this moment finally picked up their guns. The galaxy was changing, and the founding species were beginning to realize that their 2,000-year empire was crumbling beneath their feet. Admiral Jin watched it all from her command chair. She felt no joy. There was no triumph in this moment, only determination. The fleet was approaching human space. In 3 hours, battle would begin. In 3 hours, the killing would start. Jin had commanded soldiers for 30 years. She had fought pirates and rebels and alien threats. She had never wanted this war. None of them had wanted this war. But the Council had given them no choice. The Council had attacked their colonies, murdered their children, and planned their extinction. The Council had pushed humanity into a corner and expected them to die quietly. The Council had been wrong. "All fleets," Jin said, her voice calm and steady. "This is Admiral Jin. Today we fight for our survival. Today we fight for justice. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of." She paused. Across human space, 2,400 warships waited for her words. "Today we show them that we will never surrender. We will never be slaves. We will never go quietly into the night. Today we fight, and today we win." The human fleets began to move. 2,000 years of galactic oppression was about to end. And the founding species, for the first time in their long history, learned what it felt like to be afraid.